Oh, by the way, folks, on the Swan Energy phone lines coming up in just a bit, we are expecting a phone call from a gentleman known as Jeff Roach. He's down, I believe, in the Houston, Dallas, Corpus Christi area, that side of Texas. But basically what's going on is North Face has rejected an order. Now, we did a story last year on this. You can go to thecrudelife.com and check it out with Drayton Mars, where Patagonia rejected his order last year, November. And this year, the media has picked up on North Face rejecting some orders. And Jeff Roach finally he said enough's enough on his LinkedIn account. He said enough's enough. So it's a social media scream this morning here. I mean, boy, I tell you, people are getting upset. They're getting upset. And did you know that this is so ridiculous? Okay, North Face does fire-resistant clothing.
Yeah, it's stabbing yourself in the face. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
But how? Plus,
aren't their products probably created and or transported by petroleum products?
Let's just take away the whole ridiculous argument. And
I think Moochie wants to jump in here.
Frackleberry Hound.
Yeah.
Moochie's her name.
Given name. A Christian name.
Frackleberry Hound is her stage name.
Yeah.
And we are recording the podcast here, so technically we're on a stage, so Frackleberry Hound. No, the part that I don't understand is, where's the shareholders? Where are the board, the chairman of the board, to say you can't be just contradicting yourself in the same sentence? Yep. Like, I don't understand this polarity of, F you. Mm-hmm. We're not going to use you when your product is made out of that.
Yeah, and taking that stand, and especially in an economy like this, it's like everybody should be trying to help each other out. We should be spending money, pumping it into the economy, helping, making sure things are working out right.
By the way, folks, coming up later in the program, in the second half of the hour, the work hard portion, we have U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer, and I'm going to ask him that question, actually. I'm going to ask him, because I'm the one doing the interview. I got the bill today, man. Jenica she's busy tracking down the Texas Railroad Commission.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's got Christy Craddock lined up, and then also she's got somebody in Wyoming and another person in, I forget where, but she's got some big ticket items as well. But U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer in the second half of the program. We're going to have a little bit serious talk because I got to find out what's going on with this new administration coming in, these federal lease bans. Also, what we were just talking about as well. I want to ask him about that. So, Moody River Band is the band that you're hearing. See, it's play hard, man. I got to drink some more coffee here this morning. Yep. Moody River Band is the house band that we have right now. And if you would like your band showcased, if you're an independent musician and you would like your band or music showcased here, shoot us an email at studio@thecrudelife.com. Studio@thecrudelife.com. The Swan Energy phone line, 701-318-4946, 701-318-4946. And here it comes, ladies and gentlemen, our guest of the honor of the guest.
Good morning, Jason.
Hey, good morning. How you doing here?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. We have you recording right now live, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. Great.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Sterling's joining us. By the way, Sterling grew up in Saudi Arabia. His dad worked for Aramco, so he worked for an oil and gas community, but the actual community was a town with a school and all that other stuff that was only oil and gas children and families of Aramco. Isn't that weird? Not weird,
wow.
But yeah, I mean, we always talk about, the oil and gas community is the CEO and the roughneck and the chemist engineer and the flower shop on Main Street and the cafe owner, but boy, over there, man, it was actual just workers there. But anyway, so how you doing today? Where are you out of?
I live in Houston, and I do most of my work in the Shale and the plays in Texas and Louisiana.
And what was the name of the company you work for?
I work for a company called Houston International Equipment.
Houston International Equipment. And what is it that Houston International Equipment does with the oil and gas industry?
Houston International Equipment serves the production side of the upstream market in the U.S., and we provide chemical injection products and services to the natural gas and oil well sites.
Okay, how's business going?
Business is we are seeing signs of uptick. We're not seeing a lot of fruit of an uptick yet, but we are seeing some indications that 2021 is 2021 is going to gradually open back up for us, and we're really excited for that, to get our folks back to work and start seeing that V recovery that everybody is hoping for.
We're right now we're kind of recording a pilot program, a morning show, if you will. We're gonna have a morning show in January every day, so that people in the industry can start their day. It's called Play Hard, Work Hard. The first hour, Play Hard, which is you're a part of it right now, where we're going to talk a little bit more, lighthearted topics and that sort of thing. And then the second hour, like we've got U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer coming on, and a little bit more, a little bit more serious topics. Yeah. And, we can have you back in the second hour, but we'll talk a little bit more specifically about your product, a little bit more specifically about what it is that you guys do, that sort of thing, because, that's some serious stuff. And not everybody, it's hard for people to digest, but if we could have a little bit of fun in the first hour, talk a little bit of stories about Saudi Arabia, a little bit of news, a little bit of sports, that sort of thing. And today we're talking a little bit about news. And so, Mr. Jeff Roach, I appreciate you coming on today, because I saw your social media post. We call it a social media scream here, where somebody's had enough. They've just had enough.
Yeah.
And I chuckled because I think that you represent a lot of people right now, which is I'm not one to get involved with social media spats, but boy, I can only, as Popeye says, enough's enough or whatever. So talk to me a little bit about the process that you went through, that you finally said, okay, I'm going to call out North Face for their hypocrisy on what they're trying to do to oil and gas.
Yeah, first of all, I'm not the voice of anybody. I'm just a normal oil and gas guy, and I run a division of a small company. We got a few employees, and so I'm certainly not an authority on this, but I have been on social media for a long time. I use it, and I've always used it for the typical things, but I've got a pretty good connection base, and when I read that story of Innovex, and the fact that they were really just denied the ability to buy the product simply because that they were an oil and gas company. I tell you, Jason, what really got me was the response of the VF Corporation when they said the reason that we're not going to take your order is because it doesn't fall in our standards of companies that we want to be associated with. Alcohol companies, tobacco companies, and adult entertainment companies, and oil and gas. Now, I don't have any problem with alcohol or tobacco companies, personally, or anything like that. But to lump us in with these companies that have this negative stigma, that's just more criminalization of our industry. And in light of everything that's going on in the country, and people just don't really understand the oil and gas industry unless you're in it. And they're, the hypocrisy of making a stance like that behind a plastic keyboard that was manufactured with the very product that you're taking this harsh stance against. And I normally don't speak out. I'm not a troublemaker or a fight picker or anything like that. But I just thought, dang it, enough's enough. And I can tell you that I've never had a post or anything like that go like this one. And It's almost 50,000 views in less than 24 hours without one negative comment on the thread. And when I got to investigate in VF Corporation a little bit more, I found out that Bulwark, FR Clothing was a part of it. I was wearing a Bulwark shirt when I made the post. That's a staple in our industry, and they have no idea how widespread our support for this could be if we could get organized. But our problem is the oil and gas industry is huge. We have many voices, but we're not organized, and we would rather get up and go to work and put our boots on, talk to our kids on FaceTime because we're in the middle of a 14-day hitch, and then rally and protest.
Well, I'll tell you what, you are actually being part of the organization right now, because the reason we're doing this pilot program is we're showing people what it's going to sound like, what it's going to look like, how we're going to interact with the audience. Because if you think about it, having a daily program that has people like you on talking about current events in ways that affect you on a regular basis. And then, like I say, in the second hour, we can have a little bit more serious talks with some things that decision makers need to hear and that sort of thing. But also, we need some of this lifestyle stuff talked about because, like you mentioned, North Face has got a pretty big customer base with oil and gas when it comes to their FR clothing. And if there was I'll be up front here. Is it time to boycott it?
Well, I don't even know how strong a word that is. That's how uninvolved I am. I hear about boycotts. I have never been involved with a boycott before. I've always thought, if I really need it, is my little purchase really going to make a difference? But it does. It absolutely does. And when companies buy thousands of dollars of these FRs, logo their company name on it and hand it out to every field employee that they have, it's a very Bulwark brand, especially unlike North Face. Bulwark is a very commercial brand. It's not a resident. It's not an individual brand that you see in clothing stores. You got to go to a specialty store or a tax store or something like that to get very commercial brand. And I really think that the reason I listed Bulwark is, and I hate even saying this, Jason, but that's where we can hit them.
That's why I bring up the question about if there's a time for an industry boycott. Are we hearing about that? What where is it at some point? Because that it's a pretty bold statement, and we've been trying to have this discussion for a few years now on this program that the oil and gas industry has to understand that this is a different battle than they're used to, because they're trying to turn the oil and gas industry into the next big tobacco. And what you just mentioned is exactly that. When you started the program, that was their rationale, was that they lumped the oil and gas industry in with the sin taxers.
Yeah, and that's absurd. That's absurd because the oil and gas industry is far from the porn industry.
Well,
it's just not.
Well, Marlboros don't heat your home, and Joe Camel doesn't drive your car. There's
exactly right.
There's a little bit of difference too there. So,
and Jason, I'll tell you that the people of the oil and gas industry typically are a huge part of the moral backbone of our society, and we. Not that I'm on a high horse or anything like that, but we typically take the high ground when it comes to these fights. And the enemy, I'll call them the enemy, does not take a high ground. They get organized and down and dirty and will do anything to win and do anything to get their word out. And we don't want to hurt the people that might work at these companies. We'll take the position, well, it's not really the employee's fault. that the company takes this stance, and we don't want to hurt those people. So we'll just kind of let this die. And they don't believe that. They don't take those stances, and that's why they win. That's why their minority voices are way louder than our majority voices, because they don't take the high ground.
Well, maybe it's time to start taking the low horse and the low ground. Sterling, what do you think on this? Sterling, let's.
Well, no, I think everything that's being said is spot on. It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially in this type of economy where you've got companies spiting each other, over philosophical issues when we need to be trading back and forth. And I'm pretty environmentally friendly, as I think most people are. They want the earth to still be around, but we also want electricity. I'm living in a place where it's about 22 degrees today as the high, so I'm appreciating my natural gas and every petroleum product that was, put in my clothing and everything else. So, we're tearing each other down for no reason. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I really appreciate, that kind of statement, because I just think it's absolutely ridiculous in this type of world and economy to reject something based on something that's so silly. And like you said, you're just hurting the people that work for the company. You're not hurting the company itself.
Well, and that's the other thing is, by the way, we do have a interview request into the CEO and the president of North Face. We put that in this morning, and hopefully they'll come on the program, because I do want to have a talk with him about this. I do want to find out what he's thinking, and if he expects that there's going to be any, blowback or resistance or any impact against his FR clothing bulwark, and that sort of thing. So there's a legitimate conversation, and he should come on the program. He should come on here and explain himself. So my question to you, Mr. Roach, is that if you were to ask the CEO or the president of North Face a question, or you had 30 seconds or 60 seconds with him, what would you want him to know, or what question would you want him to answer?
I actually reached out to the CEO of, or the highest person I could find with Bulwark. I haven't heard back yet, but I would just want to know, is that really your position? Because for the life of me, the business side of me, even if that's your personal position, why in the world would you make that your professional position? What could you possibly gain from that other than recognition from the liberal left? And that's not a political statement. That's just the people that are typically involved with these movements. What could you possibly gain by rejecting an order for 400 embroidered jackets?
Yeah, to get some sort of environmental friendly merit badge, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, I will sell our product really almost to anybody that wants to buy it, because that feeds the employees of the families that manufacture the products and that sell the products of the company that I work for. And who am I to discriminate about the business that comes to us? We're scrambling for business right now in our industry, and trying to get every dollar that we can. And for this CEO to want to do something special for his employees and then get denied. And when you read his letter, he was taken aback by it and thought about it, and it ticked him off, and then he wrote the letter. He didn't react initially, and he came back and reacted, and that's when he got the response. But it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And the more of these people that I'm affiliated with, I serve on a national board for a group called Oilfield Connections, and we're just a bunch of people that meet once a month at various locations across the United States for lunch, and we give money to charities and to groups that are associated with our industry, and we're just good people, and we really don't have time to fuss and to fight. We go to work every day, and that's the reason that I guess I'm a little more passionate about this topic than I have been about others that I've read. I've not gotten involved in any of these things before, but dang it, the people of this industry are are hurting right now. We see some light at the end of the tunnel, but to be shunned, I use that word in the post, to be shunned by a company like North Face is just an absolute slap in the face.
That's not for you, is it?
Got to run out now, huh?
No, it's not for me.
Okay.
I'm stationary.
I've had, one time we had a caller call in on a sports radio talk show I was doing, and all of a sudden he dropped the S-bomb. He's like, "Oh shit," he says. Someone hit him live while we were talking on the air. He was going off about the Vikings defense, and then he got rear-ended. And then he kept talking, and then the co-host goes, "Mike, shouldn't you maybe go get his insurance number or something like that?" He just kept railing on the Vikes defense. Anyways, but
that's professionalism right there.
So, well, you were going pretty passionate there. I didn't know if you were getting pulled over. Sometimes the foot, the foot could get a little heavy with the passion.
Yeah, you can, especially in these big oil field trucks that burn all this fuel.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the other thing is that, listen, at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is some new form of accepted leadership. Okay, so what I'm looking at is that what we're trying to do here with the Crude Life is we're just going to try to take back the conversation. So having you come on is a very big part of this. Having Sterling come on, whose background is what it is, to actually introduce us right away to an international audience is very critical. So what we're looking at here is saying, okay, we're done with this playing the low horse and low ground stuff here, because what you're talking about is getting rid of your fire resistant line. That's what you're talking about now. So if you're seriously going to start picking a fight with the oil and gas industry when you've got an entire line of clothing that specifically sells to the oil and gas industry, so you're talking about getting rid of that line, and you're talking about a new level of leadership that apparently is acceptable by your shareholders. Because what you said earlier made a lot of sense, which is clicking and clacking behind a plastic keyboard about some personal observations or some personal feelings versus a business decision. Those are two completely separate things. And now they're starting to really mingle and mix them together a little bit. Are you following me here, Mr. Papa Roach?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I mentioned Bulwark because that's a brand that really hits home. But if you look at the other brands that the BF Corporation represents, it's brands like Wrangler, Lee, JanSport, Walls, Dickies. These are some major brands that VF Corporation owns and operates and distributes. And I was thinking about the post, and I said, if I'm going to do this, I knew it was going to kind of open up a can of worms. How do I get people's attention? I knew Bulwark would get oil and gas attention, but these same people that wear the Bulwark FRs are wearing Wranglers on the weekends,
And Dickies.
Dickies.
And Dickies. And Walmart is a huge Dickies distributor.
You're talking blue collar, man. I mean,
that's as American as you get right there.
Salt of the earth, blue collar,
but
United States majority of people.
And you look at the oil and gas supply chain, that is about as blue collar as it gets. Now there's some white collar, and their collars are really white and really pressed and really starched, but the blue collar is still pretty blue, man. And here's the part that really irritates me, that I wish the elected leaders and I wish the appointed leaders would figure this out, because they keep forgetting this. A lot of the truckers, a lot of the people like me in communications, a lot of the people who work in steel and different fabrication and pumps and things like that, the supply chain, if you will, they're not considered mining. They're not considered oil and gas. I'm considered communications, actually. A lot of trucking people are considered transportation. So when we take a look at the oil and gas industry, what they do not understand is it is not just the oil and gas industry. It's like twice as big. And I don't think the industry quite understands that. A lot. Yeah, I get the business originates there, but Are you following me on that, or am I? It's a little too existential energy here. We like to do.
No.
We do like existential energy here. So.
Well, I think it's even more macro than that.
I think you're right.
I think it's a lot. It's not twice. It's global. It's the global economy. It affects everything. I mean, everything we do. Even if you talk about a solar wind farm, you know, the tractors that clear the land are oil and gas. You know, the fuel that delivers the material. Everything is energy. Everything.
Even the composites and I mean, what the turbines are made of probably have oil or petroleum product in them on some level. Yeah, right. I mean, it's
yes. They, in North Face, I researched. I've never researched North Face before, but they've got this. They've got this goal of being, having some kind of energy sustainability program by 2025. You know, they throw these programs out there to look good, but there's absolutely no possibility of attaining them. You know, you can't get away from the fossil fuel and the natural gas energy part of our country, and really even the world. And it's just a shame that it's seen. You know, everybody sees the fracking and the we're exploding the ground and we're lighting water on fire in Pennsylvania, and we're killing the birds, and they have a dead bird that they find in a containment somewhere on a well site, and then these activists go nuts, and that's not our industry. You know, it's just not our industry. So, you know, I get a little wound up about it, but this industry's fed my family. My kids are grown now, but they fed my family for many years, and it wasn't the corporate America in Houston that did it. It was these field production foremen that bought my products, and you know, these pumpers that they didn't make a lot of money, but they bought my product, and they bought my product because it was a good product and it was a relationship. And the oil and gas business is built on relationships, and you'll find people in our industry that have been through 4 or 5 of these ups and downs, and it always comes back up. But when people say, and you know, you'll have some people that leave and do other things, but you know, the people that are in this industry, they won't leave. And if you ask them, why won't you leave? When you shuck it all the way down to the cob, it's usually because of the people. It's usually because of the people that we work with, the customers we serve, our fellow employees, you know, even our competitors are some of our best friends. And that's the way our business is. And that's the reason we have a hard time fighting, you know, against these folks that hit us with nonsense, because, you know, we're just not wired like that. We're just not. We're looking forward to the weekend to get in the deer stand. And,
well, yeah, it sounds like you guys are more family than colleague. And so it's, you know, families have a hard time agreeing on any one thing.
Well, Sterling, that's why Sterling's going to fit in fine here, because he actually grew up, you know, in one of those little, the oil commune in Saudi Arabia. So he understands that whole side of things. Was it ever called a commune?
No, compound.
Compound,
yeah.
Yeah, leave the hippie word out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
yeah.
Everybody there was working for Aramco Oil and Gas.
You know, but here's the thing that really irritates me, okay, is that what I'm getting very tired of, especially in the last year, but it's increased over the last 4 years, is you're starting to see CEOs sling daggers and throw rocks at the industry like this, because North Face has not come back with a comment yet. So not only have I, in the Crude Life, put in a request, but I'm sure the Wall Street Journal and every newspaper in Texas and the Associated Press and everybody else. So, I mean, I look at it like, okay, so at some point, don't they have to be held accountable? And that's where the business part comes in again, where if this is the new way that we're doing business, all right, we got to stop every subsidy now. Every single subsidy that's going to every one of these big companies that is starting to use their political aspirations as a way of doing business because they know they're going to get bailed out on the back end. All right, then we got to stop that crap right away, because I can't think of any other reason why anybody else would do this. Do you know what I mean there? Yeah, anyway. So there's my soapbox in the morning.
I'd like to ask North Face, because I think they were founded in the 60s, why 2025 is their target date for sustainability. What have they been doing for 50 years?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, go ahead.
The really sad thing is if they came out with a statement that says, "Hey, that was a local thing. That's not our corporate policy. We apologize to the oil and gas industry." You know what? We would just say, "Okay," and we'd probably start buying them again. And that's the really sad part of the fact that we're not organized. They're probably not going to comment because they're just hoping it goes away.
That's interesting, because, the oil and gas industry still does have to be based on results, because otherwise you die. So when you're based on results, otherwise you die, it's very hard to get into a ridiculous argument with somebody, and because you're too busy living. And well, it's funny, because anybody outside of the industry is kind of going, what are they talking about? And everybody in the industry is like, no shit, man. You ain't kidding. And really, I mean, so when something like this comes out, it is hard to kind of engage into something like that, because I don't know. Am I making any sense here this morning?
Yeah, I generally, I don't think they're interested in that philosophical or political debate. Most people I know in the oil and gas industry, they like saying they just want to go to work. That's what I'm saying. And so they're so focused on the safety part and everything. And as long as they're making a good FR clothing, they'll probably keep getting the business, because unless there's something, you know what I mean? It's like, unless everybody shifts the business to the other FR clothing guy, it ain't, it's at the end of the day, they still need their fireproof clothing, because it is a regulation. That's the other part. That's the other part of this too.
Yeah. And, and somebody on the thread said that I'd love for this to happen. Don't think it will, because the oil and gas industry is still a margin-based industry, and we will get the best deals that we can.
And that's what I was going to get with, is that as long as it's priced right and it does the results that the energy company needs, they're still going to get the business. And that's the one thing that I go back to, where in a world where things are judged on merit, that's, it's still in the world of life and death, it still does. In the world of people sitting in their office just saying, oh, let's do this. This sounds fun. Yeah, my daughter and her friends say we got to plant more trees. We better plant more trees, or whatever it is. Well, it's how a lot of that stuff starts,
Yeah.
And
until the trucks and shovels show up.
Right, and or the bill, Well, ask Germany. Well, Germany, they tried to go green. They were bragged about being the first green country for a long time. Well, then everybody's energy bill went up 4 times what it was when it started, and they had to burn a bunch of old forests that had 100-year-old trees in it, and they had to turn the coal plants on after 5-10 years. So all this, puff up stuff was happening. And then when the reality came after a body of work was done, nobody wants to talk about it now, because, nobody wants to go to somebody and say, hey, if you go green, did you know you're going to pay 5 times the amount on your energy bill than you are today? Well, now that's a whole different conversation than what they're having. So nobody wants to talk about that. That's why we're going to. Somebody needs to, so we're going to.
Conversation, absolutely.
Well, take the whole COVID thing. I haven't even heard one stimulus check for all the parents sitting at home watching their kids all day, homeschooling their kids while they get, direction from the teachers and things like that. So, I mean, at least you'd think one person in America would bring that up one time on one talk show, right? And it never has. So we're going to be talking about topics no one else talks about. So anyway, let's give your company a plug here, because first of all, the voices and opinions heard by Mr. Roach are not of his company. They are of his. And unless you want your company to be attached to it, but I assume you don't.
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate statement.
So we got to make sure we take a shower here before we go to your professional plug, because at the end of the day, we do need to give each other business, and we do need to help each other out, and we do need to create a stronger bond and a stronger strength in numbers, and this is the way to do it. So Jeff Roach, first of all, your company, and then secondly, give Oilfield Connection and the good things that Sarge is doing down there a plug too, okay?
Yeah, sure, yeah. We're Houston International Equipment. We're chemical injection products and services, and based in Houston, Texas, office in Kilgore, Texas, and Kennedy, Texas, and serve the great people of the Haynesville Shale and the Eagle Ford Shale. Oilfield Connections is a great organization. I've been involved with it for just shy of a year. Sarge Summers is one of the most charismatic personalities involved with that. We have chapters all over the United States. Oilfieldconnections.net. And I think that we've actually suspended some of the meetings for December and January because of all the COVID-related shutdowns and whatnot. But we're hoping to get back in full swing in February. So I encourage everybody to get involved in a chapter. We do some real good work around the country.